All right, we'll see if I have audio. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, and Grogu can hear
Yes.
you.
Hello, Grogu. Hello there, everybody. Oh man, what an exciting start to the day, Josh. My microphone was just possessed. It was going in and out. It was all kinds of stuff, and that's on top of after the last from the 108 podcast where it just decided, you know what? I don't want to hear you talk. So for now, we have audio. We're just gonna go with it. I'm very excited. I'm excited to be back. I don't know about you, Josh. What did you think of the first episode?
Oh, I'm very happy to be back. This is very quickly in 2023 becoming the year of Pedro Pascal. Has it not? I mean, The Last of Us and now The Mandalorian season 3. What a back-to-back run a particular actor is having in a calendar year.
And it's even bigger for me because I just started watching Narcos. So
Oh, he's
I,
awesome in Narcos.
I mean, like I watched him on SNL, and then I started Narcos. So I've seen him be hilarious, and then I saw his bare ass, and now I'm getting into this season of The Mandalorian, and a lot of great stuff. And I'll tell you, Josh, I was very interested in the first scene. They really pulled a fake out here.
They
Like I
did.
I thought that it was like a flashback. Did you think it was a flashback when you started watching it? Like it felt like it.
I did. I thought that the kid was Din,
Yeah.
and obviously the Mandalorian clan was much larger. So I'm with you. Like I thought it was a flashback scene and then quickly became something entirely different.
Yeah. I mean, so it's funny. I was thinking of this thing as like an alligator crocodile type of thing. I looked it up on Wikipedia, and there they have it as dinosaur turtle. And if you look at the back, I mean, the back is like it's got like a turtle shell to it,
Yeah.
which is I think why they couldn't blow the thing up, you know. Um, but my question on this big, gigantic, awesome beast where they were like, fine, we'll use CGI. Uh, is this building towards us seeing a mythosaur when he goes back to Mandalore?
That would be awesome. Clearly they shot this on location in Florida. I maybe you've never seen a real space dinosaur thing. I believe they shot this at Boca Raton. But getting aside, the mythosaur, it really the constant theme of this episode when it comes to Mandalore is that no matter what type of Mandalorian you are speaking with, they believe that the planet is been turned to glass and it has been poisoned to the point that nothing can really live on the planet. And Din clearly is on that's his primary mission is to prove to other Mandalorians, no, you can go back to Mandalore. And I'm going to see for sure if it's poisoned beyond belief. And if there is that type of like poison, or let's say even like radiation from all the bombs, and it's mutated creatures on Mandalore, then yeah, you may get some type of Megatron mythosaur that shows up at Mandalore, which would be pretty cool to see.
Yeah, I mean, like you know, there's the dark saber, right? I mean, like, and people are very big into the dark saber. The Mandalorians, they follow that, but there was also the taming of the mythosaur. Like, if you could tame the mythosaur, then you can ride it. Like, you would lead Mandalore, and so we've already seen in this, and from the very beginning, an evolution towards this, right? Like, so riding the what are they, blurgs, with Keel on the first couple episodes, learning to ride that thing, and Keel actually mentions the mythosaur. So like that's like our first talk about it in live action, and then he's got the encounter with the Rancor, right? And Grogu actually is the one. So he rides the Rancor for a minute, and then Grogu's actually the one to tame it. And then they fought the Crate Dragon too, right? Like so, this is you know, this is just the evolution of these things that are gigantic dinosaur-like creatures that Din is interacting with and dealing with. And so I think we're building towards it, especially if they're going back to Mandalore. And I agree, if the place is poisoned or if there's something weird, like it might even be more ridiculous than like kind of what's alluded to in books and comics.
Yes. And who knows, maybe we will get that scene later in this season of Boba Fett riding a mythosaur, like the holiday special.
Exactly. Oh my God, what a great thing. It's funny. We'll get to the Book of Boba Fett in a little bit because I feel like that was kind of a funny part of this show. But let's talk for a minute about the armorer. So basically, Din comes in and saves the day. But he took his helmet off one time and did it willingly. So not even a thank you. Not even a thank you for like, hey, almost everybody was dead and you saved the day. Nope, not even a thank you. It's just like, what the F are you doing here? Yeah. What is going on here? Like this is feeling more and more cultish. I mean, it already was, but like now it's like the rules are just too far gone for me.
Yeah, they're flying by the seat of their pants. Everyone involved, the Mandalorians that we have met, both the armorer and Bo-Katan, that they had these missions, but they seem to be not following the path, and maybe they are getting afraid. Like they had a big picture of returning to Mandalore, and then realizing that it's probably not realistic for them to go back. Even though they're generating all these followers, or in Bo-Katan's case, I'm sure we'll talk about it later on, we learned that she's lost her followers. So I'm with you. It just seems like the paths have suddenly changed to at least start season 3. And it's not just confusing to the audience. It's very confusing to Din. And right. Din's like, hey, you told me I just got to go bathe in the waters of the mines of Mandalore, and I'm back in. And that might not be the case. Or the armorer doesn't believe that, oh, I told you you have to do that, and this is the way. I didn't think you actually believed me. I just thought you would leave.
Right.
And yeah, no, I mean, like, she
seems even reluctant to say like, well, yeah, that is what it says. So you'd be back in. Yeah, I don't know what's going on there. I feel like they almost want him to be an outsider. Like this was, it just, they're still pissed about Grogu. Like, I mean, like they could rightfully so be pissed. Like the fact that he brought all that heat down on them on Navarro, like a lot of them died. So like it could be about that, but like they refuse to say it's about that because what they did, that's the way, right? Like so they would not be following the way if they did. So like that's the interesting thing there. But I love it. I love the additional conflict and like the inner conflict that he's going to have to deal with. So he tells her he's going to go back. The Jawas come up again. The Jawas are just the stars of the show. They got him like a piece of something from Mandalore, a relic from Mandalore. So he's pretty convinced that he could go back there, but obviously he needs a little help to go back there. So he then travels to Navarro, but on the way there was something. It was brief, and I'm sure a lot of you guys caught it that are watching this because you have an attention to detail. You probably watched Rebels, but we see the Purrgil going alongside the ship, and Din is asleep, so he does not see it. Grogu does, and Grogu sees these things. Now, Josh, my question to you is, it's a beautiful callback to Rebels. Me and Chorizy just watched the last episode of Rebels recently, and that's a whole thing in there. If you haven't seen it, I won't spoil anything for you, but it's very attached to Thrawn and Ezra. Do you think this is just a nice callback and this is something cool that they wanted to do visually, or is there a chance we get Thrawn and or Ezra in this series?
Oh, that is an excellent question. And, we always have a very high success rate when we start reviewing Star Wars shows and try to predict on what will be happening towards the end. I am leaning towards this is a bit of fan service, but for those that did not watch Rebels, and this is like a whole other topic too, because there's a lot of people who are complaining about this episode about you're doing all these fan service things and I shouldn't have to do all this homework to watch these episodes of Rebels or watch the Boba Fett show. I'll get into that rant in a moment, but for the Purrgil, I think this is a nice fan service, but it is obviously hinting at what is to come, because we know the Ahsoka series is coming and we know the Purrgil are incredibly important. And you're also going to learn, I think, in this show, as we'll talk about Carl Weathers, Apollo Creed, the High Magistrate of Navarro, that the hyperspace lanes are incredibly important again. And for Star Wars lore, everybody just assumes that you could just randomly jump into hyperspace. But we learned in A New Hope from Han Solo that you can't do that unless you just want to fly directly into an asteroid. You got to do the calculations. And in Rebels and Clone Wars, we learned about the hyperspace lanes where the Empire had mapped out the safest ways to travel in hyperspace. And Captain Hera Syndulla in Rebels, she alluded to the fact that, yeah, it's safe until you run into a Purrgil and how dangerous that they are. And you learn from Ezra using the Force that you can control it, and you don't need necessarily a ship to jump into hyperspace. So there's your homework. I kind of, just did a brief cliff notes of how important the Purrgil are. If this is a foreshadowing clue that we're going to see Thrawn, Ezra, or maybe even Ahsoka or Hera Syndulla towards the end of this season, well done by everyone involved. But right now, I'm leaning towards fan service, Treasy.
Yeah, I think I liked it. I liked it as like this is a really cool visual. Well, like we're going through hyperspace. What can we do that's going to be like that's going to stand out that people are going to talk about? This is that. I was trying to figure out how it would piece in, like, and even in Rebels there was a frequency that you could use to get the attention of the Purrgil, right? I mean, like, so that's, they could have accidentally done that, right? But I think in general it's just like it's a real call to, like, they're not the only things out there, right? Like the ships aren't the only things out there, and just be prepared for that when you get into the next live action show. So I like it. We'll see if it comes back at all, but I just, really cool callback, and I had to mention it. Now we go to Navarro, and before we get to these pirates that are just terrible at their jobs, we've got to talk a little bit about the moment that they, like, the whole reason in terms of the show that they go to Navarro is just to recap everything, because there's a lot that's changed, and there's a lot of stuff that happened in the Book of Boba Fett that if you didn't watch it, you would be very confused at the start of this series, right? Like, so, like, even like, how is Grogu back, right? They gloss over that. I thought it was hilarious when he asks, "Where's Marshall Dune?" And he's just basically like, "She's somewhere else that's not here." I mean, like, that was.
She's been recruited to the Special Forces. That show that we were gonna do.
Yeah, she's over there. Don't think about her. Don't think about her anymore. So that aside, and then also, like, it in the blog I wrote about the upcoming season, they did confirm that Gideon's still alive. He's in a war tribunal, and it's very possible he gets out this season. Like, I think that, like, that is something that we should definitely consider. But let's talk about the pirates a little bit here, Josh. Do you think that this is something? So it's Gory and Shard, and his guys. I think this is Vane, the other guy that I have up on the screen. Do you think this is just for this episode and just kind of like made for a tension point, or is this going to be something recurring where Grief is really having to deal with this pirate faction?
I think this could be reoccurring, that the pirates are going to randomly show up, not maybe in every episode, but they're going to create conflict that's really unwanted and become like this third party, this like Royal Rumble that we could possibly see, especially with more space battles. And that was a little unexpected, but very cool to see a battle in an asteroid belt. And you can see the ship that they have, the main pirate ship. Is that a callback to the prequels as far as that particular ship, because when they go into the cockpit and you see the Pirate King, it looks very similar to the ships that we saw during the prequels.
Yeah, I mean, it was a cool looking ship. I'm not a Star Wars ship expert. I'm like, I should probably look that up. I didn't think to look that up before this show, but like, I guarantee, like, especially with like Filoni and Favreau involved,
Mm-hmm.
they have been using old designs that didn't like make the cut for things. So I'm guessing you're probably right, where it's like this was something designed for the prequels. It never made it in, and they're like, yes, we're just going to use this because it's awesome.
Yeah. And there is a comment in the stream right now that I wish that the Pirates were Hondo. I am the same way. Like, I would have been thrilled if it was Hondo. And I really wanted to see Hondo. And I've been getting crap in the comments section calling the Boba Fett show. I know it's the Book of Boba Fett, but I really wanted Hondo to be in that show. And I still want to see live action Hondo because it just brings comic relief. But I think at some point, in order for Din to get whatever he needs to complete these side missions that will ultimately support him in the main quest of getting to Mandalore, he may need to go to the underground. And pirates don't trust one another and they fight against each other all the time. So that's why I think this is going to be a reoccurring theme, that the pirates, even though you can't trust them and it looks like they're easy to defeat, easy to kill, they don't stop. So I could expect Din to be hunted by this group of pirates.
Yeah, I feel like this group of pirates is not only going to be on Din, but I think they're also going to cause problems on Navarro, because I think at the end of the day, Navarro's got to make some kind of decision here, right? They're becoming, it's kind of like Lando in Empire Strikes Back, where he's either got like he's getting too big to stay independent, so he either needs to get like a really great marshal, right? Like if they can import Cobb Vanth or something like that,
Mm.
or or he's got to become part of the Republic, right? And so like it's possible that this is how the New Republic gets roped into this situation, but it's definitely I feel like these pirates are going to be some kind of pressure point that makes that happen. In terms of Hondo, Southside Mando makes a great point. He will show up in Ahsoka. I think so too. I think that's possibly when you're going to first see him, because he will definitely be on the side of trying to, if they haven't found Ezra at this point, like we don't know where the Ahsoka show is going to start or anything. So if they haven't found Ezra, I think he would definitely be someone who's continuing to search for him alongside the rest of them. So could be interesting. I think that these guys are just going to be legitimate, like low level bad guys. They're not going to be the big bad of the season, but they are going to be a constant pain. And maybe, another thing that's tugging Din in multiple directions, right? Like the offer to him on Navarro was pretty good, right? You could be a landed gentry instead of an apostate, right? I don't know what either of those are, but it sounds like the landed gentry is better. So I think that, like he's like Grief Karga is going to be trying to pull him back and give him a life that he and Grogu could really enjoy. He's going to be trying to continue to be part of his cult, and he's at some point going to end up in a situation where he might be the Mandalore. So we'll see how that all plays out. I'm very interested to see it. I think another thing that happens on Navarro that we need to talk about, and if something that I'm very excited about, is the return of IG-11. So that this was a great scene. It's kind of a hilarious scene too, because he's like, I want that droid, and it's like this is mostly like plastic, like this is this is not real. So we get to see them try and bring him back. He attacks like immediately because he goes back to his original programming. They take him to the Anzellans to try and fix him up. Good to see some little Babu Fricks running around.
Yeah.
And Grogu really liked him. I think that was if that's not a toy that's being sold very soon, I'd be shocked. But yeah, so they're gonna try and fix him up, and they can't. So this feels like a side quest that they're gonna go on. Where do you think this takes us? Where do you think trying to get basically the pieces for IG-11, where is that going to take us in the rest of this show?
That's a good question. I don't have a good sense of feeling. I don't think it's going to take us to Mandalore, obviously. And we may be going to different planets, maybe meeting new characters to try to find this particular piece. But I think the end game and the reason why IG-11 is important, because again, Din doesn't really trust droids. There's only one droid he trusts. It's IG-11. And if the planet is poisonous, who better to drop off at a very poisonous planet than a droid? Right. So I think that's the whole purpose of why he needs IG-11. And some of that has his back in case there is somebody that's cooped up in Mandalore that they are not expecting as a way to protect not just Din's back, but also protect Grogu. Where he's going to find this piece, I'm not quite sure, but I've got a feeling that we're going to be introduced to new characters and new planets. But do you have an idea? Do you have an inkling, Chorizy, on where he could possibly find this part?
So there's two things that I thought of. One, I heard someone mention, and I thought, yeah, that'd be really awesome. So there's the very boring answer of he goes back to Tatooine, sees Pelimoto, gets the Jawas to find it for him. Since they already mentioned the Jawas getting him that other piece, I'm hoping they're not going to do that, because I think that would be kind of anticlimactic. The other one is someone mentioned IG-88. And if he has to hunt down and kill IG-88 for parts, that could be awesome. So if you guys don't remember, IG-88 is the original version of IG-11 that we had in the movies. He was one of the bounty hunters in Empire Strikes Back. Not just barely on screen, but then, much like all of those bounty hunters became a thing of Legends, and then actually in Legends has a lot of storylines. So him having to chase down another IG droid and basically dismantle it, I think could be fun, because then you get back into, the bounty hunting piece of all of this, right? Like he's got to go track, he's got to try and track where this thing is tracking, and then get the pieces, and obviously a very tough thing to fight, right? And they're built to self-destruct if they feel like they're in danger. So if that's the way it goes, it could be really cool. But we'll see. I think one thing you mentioned, though, Josh, that I wanted to touch on is you mentioned protecting Grogu. And I think that, part of that wanting IG-11 is that, he was programmed to do that. But I'm wondering how much protection Grogu now needs, because when they had the fight with the pirates in, like the shootout with the pirates on Navarro, he didn't like close up his thing like usual. He just watched. He seemed ready to participate if necessary, or at least defend himself. And I think that's something that would be lost if you didn't watch the Book of Boba Fett. Like, you wouldn't know that Grogu could actually kick some ass if he needs to. So I'm wondering how much they're going to show of that in this series. So that's something that, like, while I think Din is still in protection mode on him, and he still wants IG-11 partially for that reason, I don't know that Grogu needs it. I think Grogu is now a certified Yoda-esque badass in a very small package.
We'll see, but Din's the dad. Like, does your dad still trust you to defend yourself?
My dad doesn't trust me to change a tire on my car, so no.
Yeah, so Din's not going to trust Grogu to defend himself. Like that, we're not there yet for Din's trust.
We're not, and I mean the Rancor thing is still incredible. I mean, like that's a great moment in that series. And if you haven't watched the Book of Boba Fett and you gave up on it, it is worth watching the last 3 episodes just to get back on track with what's going to be happening in this series.
Right.
Because if you don't, it's going to be, there's going to be a bunch of things throughout this. I feel like that are going to be like, what happened? Why is this happening? But yeah, we'll see what goes on there. I think the last thing I wanted to talk about, and this is to me, this was a very interesting scene. So Bo-Katan, she's just like completely dejected. She's there. She's like, oh, I lost all my people. They're off doing mercenary work, which I was talking shit to you guys about in previous seasons. And she's just like, it just feels like it's all over for her. Do you believe it? Do you feel like she might just be full of shit?
In a way, yes. But I think that as soon as she gets word that Mandalore is not poisonous, she is going to recruit her old crew to go back to Mandalore. And on Mandalore, in front of that crew, I think she's going to challenge Din. I think we're going to see a Bo-Katan versus Din fight. He does not want to fight Bo-Katan, but Bo-Katan really wants a Darksaber and legitimately wants to win the Darksaber this time, not be given the Darksaber, to prove her worth in front of her people, because she's always been in the shadow of like her sister. And again, she was handed the Darksaber by Sabine in Rebels, and that was not legitimate, as we have learned through the history of who owns the Darksaber, who has a legitimate claim on the Darksaber. We don't know how she lost it, but we know that she lost it. And she did not earn it again in combat. Instead, it was Din as he walked back with the Darksaber on, as he had apprehended Moff Gideon. So even though she says goodbye, Din Djarin, it's really not goodbye. It's more like, see you later, Din Djarin.
I really felt like it was, I am going to be following you now. Because I want that Darksaber back. The fact that she asked if he had the Darksaber, and this is the thing about Bo-Katan. And like, if you watched all the shows with her, she wasn't like a good guy. She was a bad actor in like most of the time, until eventually she found her way, right? Like, so there's definitely in the fact that she like talks so much crap about the Watch, but she was part of Death Watch, right? Like, I mean, like, it's just, there's a lot that like I just don't believe her, and I think that she could be she could come into this show, she could follow him to Mandalore or follow him wherever and attack him. I don't think it's going to be a straight up fight. I think she's going to like surprise attack him. Yeah. Take the Darksaber back and then go to try and get her people together. Because I think, in Shane Spagnuolo mentioned, like, I don't think they're going to go to Mandalore till the last 2 episodes. I think they're going to get there a lot quicker than we think. Because I think that there is going to be this scenario of him going to Mandalore, finding out that that's there, him no longer having the Darksaber, which he does not care about. And then come back to his people and say, like, we can go there. We can go back. And Bo with the Darksaber basically starts a Mandalorian civil war. So I think that that's where this season might be headed, because I don't think that her people are just off anywhere. Like, I think she knows where everybody's at. Like, I think this is just like, I want to get the Darksaber back, and I'm setting this trap for Din.
So a Night Owls versus Children of the Watch.
Yeah.
Civil War.
That'd be great. I think the Children of the Watch are gonna probably play in on the Navarro thing too. I think once Din is back, that'll be the help that he needs. That'll go back to the Gorian Shard pirates. So I could see a lot of this getting resolved rapidly, and then the wheels kind of falling off the Mandalorian people real fast. So like that's kind of where I see that. and this is just me being hopeful because I just want a lot of Mandalorians fighting each other. I think it'd be very visually stunning.
Yeah.
So I kind of just want that. But yeah, it's I think that this next episode or maybe two is going to be side questy, like tracking down IG-88 or going to Pelimoto and getting some pieces from some Jawa. Who knows? But like I'm worried about them going back to Tatooine. They go back, right? Because I think that was in the
Yes.
It could that could be an episode where you're just kind of like, did we need Boba Fett? Did we need all this?
Yeah.
But we'll see. I mean, like, although I could see, if something bad is happening on Tatooine, them coming back and then going like, well, we need to get these people from Cobb Vance Town. Was it Newtown or something?
Freetown.
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 People in Freetown. We got to get them out of here. Let's take them to Navarro. We'll see. I don't know where that one's going to go, but I am definitely hoping for the Mandalorian Civil War. And that's to just sum up what I'm talking about here. The Mandalorian Civil War is the important thing.
Well, I think if we have that, going back to Tatooine, I could see Boba Fett hitching along for the ride.
I think he would, right? He would come. He would be on the side of him. Would he bring his Rancor? What ship do you put the Rancor on?
No
Does
kidding.
he just hang on top of Boba Fett's ship?
Do Rancors breathe in space?
Is there Rancor room? Is there a Rancor area in that tiny ship? Imagine redoing the scene of Jango Fett and Boba Fett as a kid, but it's Boba Fett now in the one seat, and then the Rancor is in the seat next to him, just kind of like, oh, I want that. I don't know how it would fit, but I want it. I want it to happen. Well, I mean, Josh, that's all I had on this episode. It was a great first episode. It kind of they unfortunately had to tie up some loose ends to make people who catch people up who didn't watch Book of Boba Fett, but I think they opened up 100 plot lines that are possible, and we'll see which way it goes. How'd you feel about it in total?
I think it's a very good way to start the season, but here's my rant about the people who are complaining that they have homework to do. They got to watch other things. This is Star Wars, and it's also relevant in like Marvel and DC. Like, you can't go straight from Age of Ultron to Infinity War and be like, why do I have to watch all these other movies to understand what's going on in Infinity War? Why can't I just watch Age of Ultron and then go watch Infinity War and have it make sense? Like, no, that's not how any of this works. You know, this is not how it works. You should know how the game works. And if you didn't watch the Book of Boba Fett, you need to watch at least those 2 episodes, because some people are complaining. This was their complaint. Wait a second. Baby Yoda's back? When did Baby Yoda get back with the Mandalorian? And when I read that on Twitter, it was like, oh my God, are you serious? Like, you didn't watch the Book of Boba Fett? Like, we talked about this. This was talked about online through various social media channels. How do you not know this happened? Now, if you're one of those, it's like, I'm not going to watch Rebels, I'm not going to watch Clone Wars to get caught up and understand every little detail, that's fine. Just have an open mind to someone explain to you for like 5 minutes what the Purgils are and why they are special. But man, if you didn't watch the Book of Boba Fett and you are complaining about the first episode of The Mandalorian, that, oh, I got to do all this homework to understand what happened between season 2 and season 3. Yeah, I'm sorry, you do. Okay. At least those particular episodes of the Book of Boba Fett. Like, come on, people.
The 2 hours you were going to watch International House Hunters at 11 p.m. at night, like, just watch this instead.
Yeah.
But also, if you're not going to do that, just come to something like this. In 35 minutes, we explained everything for you. Like, so we quickly will get you all caught up, and we'll give you a bunch of things that are never going to happen in the series that we expect to happen.
Yes. But I will say this, my expectation, maybe not the next episode, but definitely episode 3, we are going to find out what happens to Moff Gideon. And it will be an episode that we may not see Din and we may not see Grogu. So then I'll expect to hear people complain online about it. But this seems to be like a common theme for shows across all genres that within the first 3 episodes, we're going to deviate from the main storyline because we need the secondary storyline to help fill in the gaps as far as some backstory or set up the main plot where you think the main plot is X, everyone returns to Mandalore. Really, the main plot is Z, which ties into the other shows that are coming up. And what we think is going to be the big storyline is the return of Thrawn. So that's what I'm expecting the next 2 episodes here. Chorizy, is we are going to learn about what happened to Moff Gideon.
Okay, so I could tell you right now, this is my theory, and this is mostly founded in what would make money. I think that they're going to use the comms officer from the last season of The Mandalorian, which is Katie O'Brien, who was just in Quantumania, to break him out. Like that was a very minor part that they gave her in the last season of The Mandalorian, but she's a rising star actress and she's a martial artist, so I think they had more things in mind for her. So I do think that she's going to be the one to lead the charge to get him out. And I still, even though they gave the Cara Dune brush aside in this, I think they're going to give the and Cara Dune died in that in that escape.
That's the gentlest way you could write out a character, by the way. She didn't die. She got a promotion that we'll never see her again.
She's like Eddie on Seinfeld. They like he's so scary. They don't want to work with him. They just promote him to vice president. Well, on that note, Josh, man, it was great to be back. I'm so psyched that my microphone worked the whole time.
Yes.
And we're off to a good season here, and I can't wait. I can't wait for the next episode on Wednesday. And for all you watching, we should be back next Saturday. And then, just a note: next Sunday at night, the 12th, we're going to be doing a live playback watch party for the USA versus Mexico World Baseball Classic game. That should be a lot of fun. I think it starts at like 9:00 at night. It'll be a late night because they don't got the new rules. So we'll be there watching Mexico whoop US all over the field, even though they're huge underdogs. I'm going to keep saying that. But thank you everyone for tuning in. We will talk to you all soon. And there's Grogu.